Hello and welcome to Android Developers Backstage. I'm Tor Norby from the Android Developer Products team.
I'm Siva Velusamy from the Android Studio team.
I'm Sandhya Mohan, Product Manager on Android Studio.
All right, return guests.
Return guest, second time.
Yeah, in fact, your interview was the first one we did in the studio that we posted on YouTube. So it was the first visual version of the podcast, even though we've done hundreds of episodes.
Good to be back.
Yeah. So I thought we would do an update. Studio Bot. We don't call it that anymore, but still, in our hearts.
Gemini.
Studio Bot, yeah.
Yes.
It's just, we can call it Gemini and Android Studio. That's a mouthful. And there's many other Geminis. So internally, probably still refer to the Studio Bot. But Gemini and Android Studio is what we're talking about. So it's been 2 years. Have we done anything?
It's been a roller coaster, I think. There's never been a dull moment.
Yeah.
Just fasten your seatbelts with AI.
Yeah.
Right? Like every day changes. Revisit all your assumptions.
Mm-hmm.
With every model update, everything's new now.
Yeah.
So it's been a roller coaster for sure.
Yeah. So we're recording this a week before Google I.O. By the time this goes out, it'll have happened. And we will hopefully have released a bunch of stuff.
Yes.
If not, it's coming soon. But maybe we can start going back to a couple of years ago. So what we shipped then was a chat experience. And our focus was on privacy. But then we evolved quite a bit, right? So in the fall, we launched code completion, I think, right? And then what happened after that?
We had transformations.
One way I think about it is we try to apply Gemini to every stage of the development lifecycle, whether you're designing or building or testing or maintaining. Right? We want to provide all the AI enhancement tools for you and really provide those superpowers to our Android developers.
Yeah, and you can think of it as spreading out from like one small part of Android Studio, almost like a side thing or as a chat to every part in Android Studio has some AI-based assistance.
Yeah, can you give some examples?
Well, for testing, we had the unit test scenario generation. Right? And then design tools, we have ways to generate composable previews. Inside the editor, we have features to rename your variables, rethink your variables. Those are features where it's truly a nice experience where AI is hidden. You just go about your normal course of action and it just happens to make your response a little bit better.
Yeah, maybe we can talk about that one because I think it's just kind of a nice little thing. When you use the Shift F6 rename feature in the IDE, you get a pop-up from the IDE. But we actually also ask the AI to make more suggestions based on what the code is doing. And so you don't have to know to invoke a special Gemini command. It's just like you rename, but now your suggestions are often quite insightful, right? Because they're actually looking at what the code is doing. And so you may have kind of a blah name, but the AI is like, hey, this is a better name because this is what it's actually doing.
Yeah.
I like that feature.
I think it's, one of the most daunting things is when you're looking at a blank piece of paper and, you have to get started, right? Like, but when AI really gets you like 10% of the way, gives you a first draft or like helps you out a little bit, it really just gets you started on a specific route and, gets you moving faster. So I really love that about that feature as many other features as well.
Right. So let's talk about the stuff we launched at I.O. I guess Update Bot is I think there's Journeys, which I think we'll have a separate episode on, and then there's Update Bot. We're not calling it Update Bot. The Upgrade Assistant. What is the Upgrade Assistant?
The version upgrade agent helps automates all your dependency upgrades. So it'll really be a time saver, I think, for our developers, right? This is one of the things that we've heard developers feel like is really a time-consuming task for them. We're hoping that AI can really help automate some of this for them.
Yeah. So the version is, what does it do? Everybody has to update their dependencies. And quite often when they update the dependencies, they run into trouble. And so this is an attempt at saying, how can we use AI to help solve some of those problems? And this is, I'll say this is just the first start of this, but still the way we can imagine this evolving is to say, as someone who wants to update an app, update to new dependencies, you want to know, why do I want to update this? And then if I update this, what are the issues I'm going to face? How am I going to tackle all of those? In this release, we do the part of assuming you choose to update a bunch of dependencies and then you land up with a bunch of compilation errors, we'll have the agent fix all those compilation errors for you and then summarize, here are the changes I had to make to your code base to actually make this work.
Right. So you hear, hey, Compose 1.8 is available. I should switch. And then when you just were to change the version, you discover this doesn't work. You have to actually make some changes. And you can find the release notes and you can read what you have to do. But we are basically automating that, right? So I think anyone who's used Studio has had the experience of opening a project they wrote 2 years ago. And
6 months ago?
Yes, actually, it depends on the libraries you've chosen. Like, if you're choosing the XR samples, I played with those the other day. Those are changing a lot, because it's early days, right? So I think more mature libraries tend to maybe break a little bit less. But it actually turns out that Android X, which is, our large library surface, hundreds of libraries, they have a policy of not breaking binary compatibility, but source compatibility is acceptable. And in fact, encouraged if it makes the API better. So a very common example of this is where they will add nullness annotations to an API that used to be in Java. And that is often a source breaking change if you've guessed wrong what the contract should be. So that's an example of deliberate breakages. That is just, when you recompile, you discover you now have to go and change your override. It used to be a function, now it's a val, for example, right?
I think it's a perfect place for agents to solve the problem because the feedback loop is available there, right? It makes a change, it's able to build, compile, see what the issue is, and then fix it. So, eventually it will converge to the right answer because it gets those signals with every loop, right? So it was a really exciting project. Hopefully our users like it as well.
Yeah. And what I like about it is that it's doing something that developers don't want to do. There's a lot of vibe coding tools now that are like, write apps for me. And I'm someone who actually likes writing an app. I don't necessarily like fixing compiler errors after updating dependencies, right? And so people kind of avoid that. And here we have something that you can kind of get it going and then walk away, and then come back and hopefully it's done.
Yeah, it's a very conscious choice to identify some of these toil areas, right? So no one wants to deal with it. So how can we help use AI to help solve some of those problems?
Yeah, and this is something we wanted to do for years. Like we built something called the AGP Upgrade Assistant, which we had for years, right? It's refactoring in Studio, where we will bring AGP up to the right level. And we've hard-coded all the knowledge of what broke in AGP or deliberate changes, right, to the JDK, to the DSL that we have to adjust. But it was only for the Gradle plugin. And we knew that people also want to update their libraries. But we thought, how can we deal with the fact that some library is making some API change? How do we encode that? And with AI, we just point it to the release notes.
Yeah, it's kind of magical.
And it reads the release notes and it understands that the sentence there says, replace this with that. It does all their factoring. In the past, this would have been very difficult for us to encode. And that's the other, I think, nice bit about this is that this isn't a very huge leap for the AI today, right? Given a compiler error, given release notes, given the current project and sort of the new dependencies, figured out, it seems to work pretty well.
Yeah. Should we talk about how it actually works?
Yeah.
So the way it works is we first statically, we look at your project and just using regular IntelliJ, the traditional static methods, we identify what dependencies are there. And then we say, we don't ask AI to say what is the latest version of this library. We go manually check for what are the latest versions available. So Lint was already doing this.
And that means that we don't have to do any kind of hallucinations on the APIs. Right. We're not going to guess versions, and it's always going to be really up to date because we're actually connecting to maven.google.com, to Maven Central and so on.
So we check both the Android X, so the maven.google and Maven Central. We pick up on what all the latest versions are, and then we ask the user, which of these dependencies do you want to update? And then once you select it, even the application of the updates is manual. By
manual as in it's a refactoring. You just press a button and we are using static analysis to update all the build files.
Correct. Yes. Manual on our part. So static analysis, yes. We do static analysis. We update the dependencies. Now we are left with a project which has the latest dependencies, but it may be failing to compile. This is when we shift over to the AI assistants and we kind of have this agent which basically first attempts to build your program. Or actually even this is, we control this. We ask the model to first do a build. Once the build is done, we look through the errors, and even some of this is with our static analysis techniques that we already have for the AGP parsers. We identify all the files that do have issues due to syntactical errors, whatever. And then we ask the AI to fix those issues one by one, where we give it the release notes for all the libraries that have changed. And we try to even be smart about it, right? We try to figure out, in this particular case, what are the libraries that are interesting? What is the version range of the updates we need to pass in? And we try to pass in just the appropriate context. And then the model basically fixes one particular file. And then we go through this loop. We say, okay, now we fix this. Let's do a build again. Let's see if there are any more errors. And we keep repeating until we succeed or fail.
So I have a favorite part about this. When you have a lot of changes that the AI's made, right? Like, where do you begin? And, you have to try to understand, why did it make this change? You have to go back and look at all of that. Instead, you now have Gemini over there telling you why it made this change. I think that's really helpful as well.
Yeah. So at the very end of the update, you get a nice summary. And so we basically have Gemini summarize all the changes and the release notes. So you can kind of find out what changed. And then while it was in the loop doing the fixes, it didn't just make fixes. It explained what it did, why it made a certain change. And so what we do then is to show that explanation as well. So you don't just get a pull request with like diffs. You get explanations overlay those diffs as well, which is a nice little thing. So, looking at what it did and understanding why is much easier.
Yeah, and that part will probably be really crucial going forward as you start. There's more code being written, but you still have to understand what happened over here.
Yeah, this is a very deliberate strategy, right? It's like the developer is in the loop. This isn't something that's going to be going in on its own. Like, it is doing grunt work for you that you don't want to do, but then you're ultimately the one saying, yeah, this looks good. Okay, I approve of this. Yeah, so that's upgrade agent. And one nice thing we can do to test it, and this is what we've done, right? We just go to current Git projects and we just rewind time. We go back 3 years and say, okay, go back to this version. Okay, now upgrade up to current from there. And it's kind of fun to see it do its thing. Do we have evals for this?
We do. We have I don't know, maybe 25, 35 evals that we run this through, all open source Git projects that we just rewind back in time and see if we can actually handle some of the updates, like compose plugin updates, most of the common Android X library collisions, or conflicts. So we resolve most of those. I think our pass rate is over 80%.
Yeah. No, it's good. I feel like with the latest AI models, it probably doesn't need to do some of the static stuff. Like we've taught it, for example, we're still running the AGP refactoring behind the scenes. We've taught it how to migrate the compose plugin. It was moved from Kotlin 1.9 to 2.0. There's a different artifact. We do all of that statically. And I'm sure the AI could have fixed it. But why make the AI do extra work when we know what to do, right? So we're trying to find the right balance of making it fast and efficient.
Yeah, that comes with efficiency. Right? You don't want to make these unnecessary calls. And with AI, there's always the risk. So it's never 100% correct thing.
Yeah. So I think that's the update. I'm really looking forward to seeing what people do with it. And then there's the even more exciting, I would say, that is the agent, the general agent. And so this is the
mode. We're calling
agent mode.
Yeah, this is very early days. We should say first of all, right? So like we're putting this in labs. But we also want to make it available. So hopefully, by the time you hear this, it became available. And what is agent mode?
So agent mode is like chat on steroids, right? So with traditional chat interaction, right? Chat basically Gemini tells you, here's how you can solve this problem, or here's how you can do something, right? But agents will actually help you make that change, right? So basically, it's just AI with some tools to make changes, and so that is the agent mode that we are launching in Canary.
So with chat you get answers. With agent mode you get actions.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, and we've seen actually even right from when we launched StudioBot, there were so many queries from our users. Users want those changes to be made. The users want even chat. They wanted to understand what is going on in this project and make changes and fix errors. They want it all essentially done, not do some of the rote work. And now finally, the models have improved significantly. So now it's possible for us to deliver on some of these things.
Yeah, like on launch, we really emphasized the idea that the AI did not have access to your code, because we knew a lot of our users were very concerned about this. Like, I can't let the source code leave my premises, right? So we kind of treated chat as if it was a browser window, that you're just typing in the question and only what it sees there is what it has access to. And we were really, really clear about that messaging. But we still saw people just still assuming that it could see this file and so on.
Yeah.
And since then, obviously, code completion without access to source code would be useless. So we introduced the concept of giving permission. And so we're gradually now sort of letting the AI have more access if you opt into that.
That is correct, yeah.
And we didn't speak about the business tier, but we launched that recently too. So it's possible for businesses and individuals to sign up for this paid tier with significantly better privacy policies if you don't want any of the code shared.
Yeah,
What is
I can talk a
this?
little bit about that. So when we launched Gemini and Android Studio in Stable last year, I think the feedback was very clear. A lot of top apps came back to us and said, we really want to use this, but we have all these privacy requirements, or our legal team requires a specific compliance policy to be met, right? So we partnered with the Gemini Code Assist team in Google Cloud, and we've launched Gemini and Android Studio for Businesses, which basically provides these three major value props, right? Privacy, security, and management. So by privacy, what I mean is the user's code is never used for model training. Right. By security, what I mean is it has the IP indemnification, the encryption, the compliance, and all of that. And in addition to that, I think large enterprises and businesses want some management capabilities, where they want to assign licenses, where they want to have an admin portal where they can manage all of their users and their activity and so on. So hopefully we've launched this new product it's right now in public preview. And enterprises can purchase Gemini Code Assist licenses to use it in Android Studio, and hopefully we'll launch it in Stable in June.
And it's part of N.1 release.
Yeah, Narwhal.
Yeah, so it's kind of a sidetrack, but that basically addresses some of the privacy concerns too, and it's hopefully that means more people can use all the stuff that we're building.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
So back to the agent. So we have now chat mode, and you can ask it things to do. What are some things you can ask it to do?
You can ask it to do any. I think of it as the current popular term is vibe coding. I think of it as conversational coding. I think you can ask it to look at your files and make whatever changes you want. Right? That generally, over time, it'll be able to do many more things. But as of right now, maybe just looking at 1-2 weeks past I/O, it'll be able to look at the files open in your project. If you wanted to add small chunks of code to add a new feature or fix a problem, it'll be able to handle that. It'll be able to build your project if you want. If you have an error in your project and you want it to fix the error, you could say something like, do a build, find the error, fix the error, and it'll be able to do that. And with each of these, we let the model decide when to do what action, and then the model again decides when it is done making all the changes that you requested.
And this is a really big change and it was kind of enabled by Gemini 2.5.
Yes,
that's
right?
correct. The way I think about agent mode is just more complex tasks, higher level of abstraction, right? More than what we're just typically used to. So for example, I could say connect to the Google Maps API, help me get started on that, or just help me with unit test cases and so on. So yeah, just more complex tasks. It's going beyond just an agentic workflow with just sequences, a few LLM calls. Instead, it's giving more autonomy to the agent, and so the agent can really tackle that complex task. It breaks it down, and there's a planning step and reasoning happening behind the scenes. And once it's done, it'll give you all the code changes that it proposes.
Right, and it also asks for permission before it does anything quote unquote dangerous, right? So I might, for example, have a source file in the editor, and I could say, hey, write a test for this, right?
Yes.
And then it's going to figure out what the test should be, and it's going to actually create it. And then I can say run it, and then it's going to run it.
I don't know if we can run it yet, but yes, all of that should be very possible. The agent we can create those files. Some of this, you may still have to break down your prompt a little bit. I think everybody is getting used to figuring out what level of granularity of the instruction you can provide to the agent and have it be successful. But yes, maybe I would say the same thing as, look at this file, create a test over here, and maybe even handle these specific test cases or whatever, right? So you want to look at how it's proceeding and still control it. So you should still very much think of it as you are looking over whatever it is doing and you are approving the changes and you are happy, you are reviewing those changes and you're happy with it.
Yeah, so initially, it won't write a file. It'll show you, hey, I want to write this file. Here's the diff. And you can say yes, right? So you can approve each diff if you want. Or you can just say, you only live once, go.
I'm feeling lucky, yes.
Right. But then at the end, we have a summary, right? Like in the upgrade bot, so where I can sort of see what it's done.
That's correct.
And I can revert if I change my mind.
Yes. So at the end of every agent interaction, you see all the files that were changed. You can look at the diffs, and then you can decide to restore back to the previous state if you're not happy with it.
Yeah. And this, I guess, works best. I've been testing it with 2.5 Flash, but I think we are shipping 2.5 Pro to our users by I/O, right? That's what I feel like. That's the latest news. Hopefully it doesn't change by the time we ship this, but and that is really kind of a game changer.
Yeah, 2.5 Pro has been truly a game changer. We have, I think it's on the top of the leaderboard on almost every category. And there was a release last week for the I/O version of 2.5, and that significantly bumped up the coding performance and performance on all the agentic tasks. So we can, it's able to invoke the right tools at the right time a lot more.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
We couldn't have done agent mode without 2.5 Pro.
Yeah. I know I'm not supposed to talk about future stuff, so I guess I wanted to ask, hey, what's coming after? But so agent now, people can try and give us feedback basically on, and I'm assuming we're just going to keep expanding all the tools that it is empowered with.
Yeah, even now, like there are, I think in labs, in N.1, we have a couple of features. We have the multimodal feature, and we have features for users to specifically reference files. And so, and you can use that in agent mode. You can say, I want, look at this file. The way we pull out context, it's still very much in the early days where we expect developers to kind of guide the AI and say, look at some of these files and then do this particular action. But you can imagine all of those things improving over time.
Yeah, I mean, I have heard that is superpower. I've heard on other podcasts too, like even with other models, that the engineers who sort of get experienced using this feature, they know what to write and how to frame the prompt in a way that makes it more successful. I'm sure over time, the AI will be better in understanding, guessing what you want. But right now, it's a useful skill is to play with it and get better and better at how to make it do your bidding.
Yeah, it's a huge jump from 2 years ago, from when we released to now. With 2.5 Pro, you feel like the model gets what you're saying, and you can have a reasonable conversation with it. And so breaking down the prompt should come naturally as you see, okay, I asked it to do this, and it did some of this thing. Maybe next time I'll add a prompt to say, don't do these things that maybe you didn't like, and maybe focus more on, okay, I want you to do this specific thing. So hopefully prompting is a natural thing to learn.
Yeah, on the context side, we've added a few features to help developers, right? We've added the feature that shows the context drawer in the chat. So developer can actually see what Gemini used as context, and if they feel like that was incorrect, they can attach the files from their project that they think are relevant as well.
This is like in a Gmail tool, seeing the attachments for a thread, right? I can see exactly what the files were. So I think we implicitly attach the current file currently, right? You will actually see that if you open the context drawer. Mm-hmm. And this is where you can go attach a screenshot if you want to ask it to, for example, go and generate code.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can go attach a file, attach a screenshot, and then ask it to generate a UI, a composable that tries to match that screenshot.
Yeah, and in agent mode, you can tell to just write the file and to iterate until it looks right.
Yes.
And hopefully we'll teach it how to use Compose Preview as well.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be hard. And then
we should teach you to use Logcat. We should teach you to, run your app, run tests. Yes, there is.
I'm sure that'll happen in the next few months or weeks. We'll see.
Definitely just beginning to scratch the surface. There's a lot to do on the agent space.
Yeah. And this is what I'm excited about. I feel like in Android Studio, we have so many integrated tools that should really make the agent powerful. Right?
Yeah.
Like we can teach the agent to run the debugger and help debug a bug. So I feel like that's where we can sort of go beyond what a lot of the editors can do in terms of AIs, that we don't have to try to expose the debugger, through some command line interface and LSPs and so on. Like it's there and it's got the power, it's got the ability to look at all the expressions and all the stuff that IntelliJ has in Studio, which is pretty cool.
And we can focus on the Android specific things, like the version update agent we spoke about.
Yeah.
It is a general problem. So maybe if our audience finds it useful, maybe we'll see if even outside of Android it's useful. But we can do things very specific to Android.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely sort of domain specific today. And in fact, one thing I didn't mention, but we're doing more things. For example, if your project's really old, we will migrate you over to using version catalogs instead of the old hack workarounds with like X blocks in Gradle and so on. We're just taking the known coordinates from sync and we're writing out a new version catalog. So there's a lot of custom code there, which hopefully makes it really, really successful. And I know you're working now on, like, we had UpgradeBot as a custom written agent, and you are now re-architecting it to be sitting on top of the general agent. Is that correct?
Yes. I think
so we don't know which one we're going to ship yet by I/O. Certainly long term, there will be a generic agent, and hopefully this will all just be tools calls. So we'll expose all the refactor, all the release note lookup and all that stuff to the agent. But for right now, it is a hard-coded, super useful agent.
Yeah. It's kind of revealing how Google works under the hood. But yes, we are figuring out a week before I/O.
Yes. Well, this is exciting. But I think also necessary in the AI field. We can't stick to the plan because the market the technology conditions are changing. I think 2.5 was just a couple of months ago that it became so good at code that we're like, okay, you know what?
Yes.
We need to do a general agent.
Yes.
We no longer need to sort of constrain ourselves to what we can do with 2.0.
Yeah, and it's changed. I don't know what Gemini will announce at I/O, but that'll be another exciting thing to watch.
Yeah. I mean, the leap from 2.0 to 2.5, I can't wait to see 2.6 or 3.0 or whatever they pick. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, we do have to revisit all the assumptions, go back to first principles, and then, revisit all the product decisions we made every few months, it looks like.
Yeah. Any other areas that we should talk about? Well, we can talk about the prompt library. I think we are also working on, we ship prompt library already, which is basically just a way to write prompts that have substitutions. So similar to live code templates in IntelliJ, right? You can have it like inject the selection and things like that. But we're doing what we're internally calling V2 of it. What is prompt library V2?
Yeah, prompt library V2 will include rules where developers can go and set their preferences, their tech stack preferences. For example, I always want code in Java and not in Kotlin. Or
that was a very bad example. I'm just kidding.
So they can go in and set their preferences, their tone and style preferences, or like their tech stacks or preferred technologies and so on. So just a way for them to also provide more information about the project. Because everything in rules will be used with every chat message sent to the LLM.
So this is a way basically for users to set their own preamble, I guess is what we called it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So basically the default rules is where you put here. So this is where you can say, I am using material 2, not material 3 yet. So please don't keep showing me material 3 code snippets, for example.
That's correct. They can also tell a little bit about their app if they want to provide even more context as well. So that's rules. And then we're doing other visual improvements to prompt library as well. And we're going to be launching a prompt library cookbook or a showcase on developer.android.com, which will give you a lot of samples that developers can go see and get some ideas for things that might be useful for them. Also, another feature that's interesting about prompt library is they can have the prompts be saved to their VCS and shared with their teams. Right, this is something that we've heard that large teams really want to do, where they've found a really good prompt that's been tuned and works for their company's best practices and so on. They can have this saved and shared with their teammates easily with this feature.
So this is how you can write like linked rules, basically, that are high level. Like, hey, here's the rules for how to audit our release notes for our grammar style or whatever. You could say never used first person or whatever the tone is. That this is the kind of where you can write those things.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Helping guide the LLM towards the things that you desire.
Nice.
We changed the whole tech stack. It's using Compose. I don't know if we ever said that.
Yeah, I mean that's really nice. I feel like there's so much. I mean, I feel like when we shipped StudioBot, 1.0, I was proud of it because I thought it was pretty polished. Like we definitely put effort into making the UI feel good, even though the model didn't quite live up to what we'd hoped at the time. But I feel like now we have so many nice new flourishes, just like little animations here and there. Like recently we just added this like notification while Gemini's running so you can interrupt it. We fixed the scrolling behavior. It's much more intuitive now, so you don't have to keep scrolling down. There's so many small niceties in the UI and interaction that I think makes a big difference.
Yeah, that was all thanks to Compose. It enabled us to do some of those things. But yes, the many UI features, we still have a long way to go, but the constant sequence of improvements coming through.
Yeah. Another small thing, which isn't Compose, but it's a personal favorite of mine, is for code completion now, the ghost text, which used to be just gray, now has syntax highlighting. So, but it's still using a translucency, so it's still obviously ghost text, not the real text.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like that just looks so much better than before.
Yep. Increased readability. Yep.
Yeah. Any other small things or big things that we've done?
One feature that I like a lot is just the Gemini integration, the insights on AQI and
App quality insights.
That's right. And the Play Vitals, right? I mean, I'm just thinking back to my days when I was on the app side, right? Like, we'd look at Play Developer Console and there's so many errors and so many crashes and ANRs, and it's just really hard to navigate through all of that. But if you've already integrated with those in Android Studio, you can now have an additional layer of Gemini insights on top of it, which will just really help you with that code context to find those issues and resolve them.
Yeah, so to say a little more, if your app is in the Play Store, you can basically connect to it from Studio. And so you can see the crashes, which just duplicates what's on the web. But what's really, really awesome, I'm just so excited about this feature, is that we can then automatically figure out the corresponding version that the crash came from. So we automatically record the Git, the Git SHA for each release and plummet through the whole crash pipeline. So when we see a crash that maybe was from a 3-month-old version of your product, it's not going to use the line numbers from the current version. It's going to understand to go back, and it'll actually pull the source code. And so when Gemini offers an explanation for a crash, it is looking at the source code, which is much more useful than it just guessing based on the method name. Like, it can actually see what was there. And so you now get crash explanations and, in some cases, even fixes, right? We've hooked it up to our transformation pipeline. So, like, there's a prompt written that takes a source code and the crash and generates a fix, which often works too. So I think that is an extremely useful thing.
On that similar note, we also made improvements to build and sync errors and how it integrates with Gemini as well, right? So now it has support for more types of errors where it can, when you're really stuck in that moment, I think that's where truly Gemini can help you get moving on this.
So you get a sync error, and then what happens?
There's typically a link there that says Ask Gemini. And when you click on it, it opens up chat and attaches all the relevant files, the error message, and potentially where it's occurring. And then it'll come back with like a suggested solution.
I see. And probably a month from now, it'll take you to
agent mode.
It'll take you to agent mode and say, fix my sync, not ask about it.
Yeah. Every feature we are talking, it needs an agent mode.
Yeah. If the agent should be able to drive the IDE. That's what's so nice to have it inside the IDE, right? Is that it can basically do this kind of stuff for you. Yeah. Anything else that we haven't talked about?
I have a long list here, so around 10 features that we launched.
Yeah, let's hit it.
Compose preview generation, right? Another time saver. And then let me see. We're going to be talking about, hopefully, we're going to be talking about Transform UI at a later podcast episode as well.
Yeah.
But just to quickly summarize that for our listeners, Transform UI is very powerful in that developers just can go from the Compose preview and request all the changes they want, right? Like they can just say, change this color, change the padding, all those visual changes. It's really easy now to do from the preview with the help of Gemini, instead of having to attach those files or go back into those files for the preview and then go and make those changes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so many places where we still need to integrate Gemini, and we're continuing to do that.
And I think that's our general plan, right? Is just to look for all the places in the IDE where we can add some usefulness.
That's good.
And so we don't necessarily need you to go into the chat or agent mode and type and request everything. In some cases, we can just anticipate what you want. Like the rename integration is a pretty good example of that, right? In Logcat, if your app crashes, we will just have a link there. You don't have to go and type, what is wrong with my app, right? Like we just have a link. And that's our plan, right? Is to go through and try to add usefulness.
Yeah. And that's, I guess, going to some of our principles of how we are integrating this, right? It's we are definitely looking for areas that are more try to avoid toil, where developers are not interested in software, they're forced to. So we'll find more areas like that and help you in those cases beyond just the write all my code. That's a
well, we didn't really talk about write all my code. Maybe we should. So vibe coding. I guess there's multiple definitions of vibe coding. One of them is that you're just like telling it what to do and hitting accept. Like, yes. I guess in our UI for right now, it's yes to all, right?
Yes to all.
Yeah, and then you just tell it. But there's this whole other thing of like, hey, write me something from scratch or add some whole new area from scratch. And I guess the generic agent could be used for that. But how are you thinking about, okay, what about the studio templates? What is the future for studio templates, for example? New project wizard.
We're in the early stages of potentially a product there where, you can have a really good starting off point. If you're starting a new project, instead of giving you a blank template, we'll give you something that's pretty close to like the requirements, or, if you have like maybe a Figma or an image wireframe, we can get you started on that route. So that's still in the early days, hopefully for later half of this year.
Yeah, so you can think about it as a user, right now you have to pick one of the existing templates, and they are far away from what you want. They may not be using the right libraries. They may not be showing you how those APIs from those libraries should be used. If you want to use camera, you have to first spend half a day figuring out which camera library I need to pick. So hopefully we can come up with something that gets you set up with some of the basics more towards what you're looking for, and then you can go and build your thing on top of it. So that could be a useful product.
Yeah. This reminds me of something we didn't talk about in UpdateBot, but one of the things that we're doing is we're building a lot of Android-specific tooling for the agent, right? So Gradle is the one I just remembered, right? That there's so much special knowledge about AGP. And so what we're doing now is teaching the agent how to deal with this so that it doesn't hallucinate guesses on things in the version catalog or guesses about like, what is the name of the current variant? It's very easy for an AI to suggest, oh, you should run the assemble debug target. Well, maybe that's not the right target in this project. You need to look at the available variants, for example, right? And so that's one of those areas where we're going in and teaching it. So what triggered this for me was your mention about camera libraries. We probably don't always want it to just make guesses based on its, web search.
Yes.
Because sometimes those aren't what we think is the best choice, right? So for us to make sure that when you're using Gemini and Android Studio, it really has been taught, it has an opinionated opinion on what is, well, I don't think we are calling it modern Android development anymore, right? But the principles that we're pushing for, like, this is the best way to do Android to make sure your app is adaptive and follows best practices across the board.
Performant, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are things users expect that from Android Studio. They look at Google, Gemini is from Google, Android Studio is from Google, all of Android, all our libraries. And so these should work together very nicely.
Yeah. And it's starting to. It's pretty exciting to see the progress and the evals. It feels like a pretty big change for developers. I know we've had some people on the team who are like, yeah, AI, but I think a lot of them are coming around too to see how useful this can be.
It's growth in the models, in how the entire world is adapting to AI. It takes time, but it truly, at least for me, it feels like we are in the middle of a revolution. We don't know exactly how things will look 2 years from now, but
that's what makes it exciting.
It's super exciting. Yes. It's if you just rewind back 2 years and you think you can take a file and fix a random compilation error with the correct solution, that's impossible. Like that's, I don't know, it's magic. Now it kind of feels like, okay, yes, that is possible now. How do we rethink it? How do we make sure? How do we validate it? How do we give the AI all the right tools so that it can validate all of those actions?
Yeah, and propose things. I think we still really want developers to be in control, right? Like ultimately, I don't think we can replace engineers on the team. That is not our goal either, right? The goal is to make them super productive, and hopefully we can take away the stuff developers don't want to do. So we didn't talk about journeys because there's going to be a separate episode on that, but like not a lot of people love writing tests, right? Certainly not people on our team either, right? We're like, please people write tests and we have a policy, but it's not, I think, where people are super passionate. I think upgrades too, every time we have to update some dependency, it's like, right? So our goal is to sort of help with that and then, leave the real work to engineers.
Yeah.
That's right.
Any parting thoughts?
I know we're not supposed to talk about the future, but where do you think it's headed? I mean, are there going to be more agents, multi-agent systems? I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
Well, I know that at the cloud team made a bunch of announcements at Next, right? Their conference about, mixture of agents and managing lots of agents. Like I personally just want one really good one. I'm not really concerned yet about like firing off 50 agents. Maybe that'll be good. But I just want like a co-developer sitting with me in the IDE that I'm interacting with that is super fast, ideally. And we're seeing some really fast models also in development here, and that's pretty exciting that you're not waiting 20 seconds for a good reply. That's my, sure, maybe in the future we'll all be like, what, you only had one agent? But for now, I just want a really good one.
Just being able to rely on what the agent is doing more and being confident in, okay, this makes sense, and you don't have to revisit it. We made a huge leap. You don't have to explain your intentions so much anymore. The model just gets it. Likewise, there is a huge leap in the output quality, but you still need to prompt it. You still need to break down your problem, and those things will keep improving. And once the agent gets more of these tools, it is able to understand the context even more. You don't have to explain every single thing.
Yeah, I think a parting thought from me would be just the general learning that AI is good at pretty much everything, but it's not perfect or great at any one thing. So we still have to have that human in the loop and make sure we're doing the right things with AI.
Yeah, I want to make sure we're focusing on value. Instead of having lots of prototypes that are fun and good demos that don't work in production, I want to make sure we have some really good things that you can play on real code bases that are really good. I think that's what we're hoping with UpdateBot and Journeys, right? And eventually Agent, but that one is so open-ended, it's harder to know. And I guess we'll be looking at evals, right, to see what are people trying with it and how good is it at that. And I think, at least for the next few years, I don't think we're going to switch to natural language for building apps, right? I think that it's going to still be expressed in code. I think we'll still want to profile and debug and do these things, right? So I think IDEs are super, super useful. And that's really where we've invested years and years and years. And I think that's still very valuable.
Yeah, it's absolutely. We don't see that going away. We just want to make it even easier.
Yeah. Listeners, if you have any comments on anything you heard today, please feel free to post them in our YouTube recording of this chat. I actually printed out some of the comments we got from our last episode on KMP, so I'm gonna read a few
YouTube comments.
YouTube comments. I know I'm not reading all of them, although they were generally very nice, I would say. So Incomplete Theory wrote that KMP is absolutely marvelous. Really love it. Biggest gripes I had with it, though, is the Gradle structure in a multi-module and multi-target setup. Yeah, that's fair. David wrote, there are already many valid use cases for using a KMP lib. For example, when you want to parse something, encrypt, decrypt it, a communication protocol, for example, just import it in your iOS app and use it. No need for rewriting the same code twice. And developer Emad Mehez wrote, absolutely love KMP and CMP. We now need an official Firebase SDK for KMP. So yeah, good point. And the final one I'll read is, KMP is awesome. Looking forward to more KMP compatible libraries. So I would say, very positive sentiment. Hopefully you'll all be kind in the comments for this one too.
Yeah, we are using CMP, Compose Multi-Platform.
That's right. That is what basically enables the new UI, and it's great for our team to be able to use Compose as well.
Yes.
Since the toolkit side of my team basically works on Compose. So that's very, very nice. And I think that's it for today.
Thank you for having us.
All right. Thank you. And everyone, please try Gemini and Android Studio and the new features.